Welcome to the KayaCast podcast, presented by KayaPush, the cannabis software making people management easy. The KayaCast is all about helping cannabis retailers launch, grow, and scale their business. I'm your host, Tom Mulhern, and I want to invite you to join us each week for conversations with thought leaders in the cannabis industry about their experience and expertise of working in the cannabis. Well, today I'm sitting down with Tommy Truong, the CEO and founder of KayaPush. You know, we've spent a lot of time on the road together in the past few weeks, and you've really been sharing some of the really cool insights that you've had into the industry. And while I'm in Vancouver, here in the KayaPush offices, I thought we could chat a bit and hear some of your thoughts.
Thanks for having me, Tom. So where do we start? What do you want to know?
I want to know how all of this started. Give me a brief history of KayaPush and how it all happened.
Before KayaPush, I used to work in an accounting firm. We were fairly big, like a national accounting firm, and I hated work. Yeah. I hated work. It wasn't fun. The work wasn't fun, but the environment wasn't fun either. I was there to pump financial statements, and that was it. You know what I mean? And I didn't feel like I was making much of an impact with the work that I was doing. There was a disconnect between financial statements and what is the impact that I was making in the world. When we started this company, it was really important for us that we created an environment that was fun, that was challenging, but that was impactful. Like everybody that works at Kaya understands the impact that they're making with the businesses that we're helping.
Yeah. So in that previous role, it wasn't just the job, but it was like the environment that you found draining.
You know, when you go to work and you're like, oh, gosh, it's Monday. Yeah. I gotta go work. And it feels like work.
That's
right?
When you know it's
That's when you know, okay, this is probably not for me. This is not the environment that I want to be a part of. And that's how we started the company, Kaya. And we thought about how do we tackle this issue? How do we help other companies create an environment that's fun through our HR platform?
And you didn't do it alone, right?
No. So I have two other co-founders, Tina and Danny.
How long have you known them?
Oh gosh. So I've known Tina and Danny since high school. Tina, fun fact, used to go out with my best friend. And then Tina's older brother. So we've known each other for, I hate to say it, over 20 years. You know, I'm aging myself here.
And starting a business, like I have lots of friends that we're like, hey, you know what we should do? We should start a business doing this. But you guys actually did it, and you've created what we have here with Push and KayaPush.
Yeah, it's been an amazing ride. You know, anytime you start a business, there's ups and there's downs. And the most important factors when you do is who do you go in business with, because there are going to be bumpy roads, there are going to be ups and downs, and a lot of downs before you have the highs. Yeah. And I'm just super grateful that I did it with them.
So now you launched KayaPush, you launched Push Operations, and what are some of those industry challenges that you're trying to eliminate as a company?
Every time that I talk to a business owner, I always ask him this question, is why should somebody work for you? Why? Yeah. If you think about it, every company out there likely pays competitive wages, right? If you don't pay competitive wages, you probably won't have any employees, right? So taking wages out of the equation, why should somebody choose you instead of your competitor, right? The really high performing people in this world, the ones that will really make an impact to your business, the A players, they need something more than just salary. Salary only it's a very short-term thing. So why should somebody stick around for you? And that's the question I ask every business owner when I meet them. And it's a question that I think everybody that runs a business should ask themselves.
Yeah. And for those A players that are in those businesses, if they can't answer that easily, like if they can't say the reason that I work here is because I'm excited, I'm passionate about the work we're doing, then it's time to move on.
Anytime somebody goes to work and it's not fun or it's not challenging and they don't feel like they're making an impact, those three cards, it's very simple. Have potential turnover. And also you have employees that are less engaged.
So that engagement piece, how has Kaya worked to create engagement with their employees? Are there certain strategies you guys do, or is it just like making a fun place where people can come and feel like a part of the community, or what's your secret there?
There's one thing that we've realized that businesses that have figured it out, they figured out the matrix. Think about this. If you're a business owner and 90% of your employees, or even over 50% of your employees, were as engaged as you are in your business, right? Or believed in your business as much as you do, what would that do for your business?
It would grow like crazy.
Yeah. But business owners, they invest hundreds of thousands of dollars into their business, right? And you can't do it all running a dispensary. You can't talk to every single customer. You can't pack every inventory. So you hire employees to carry out your vision, hoping to praying to God that they care as much as you do in your business, right? But why should they?
Yeah.
Why should they? Why should someone care about your business as much as you? So business like that, it goes back to that question, right? Is how are business owners showing up? And that's really, when I talk to other businesses, the ones that have figured out the matrix, they figured out that they have to show up a certain way in order for employees to be engaged.
And now for dispensaries specifically, how are they tackling this engagement? Like, I know you speak with dispensaries all the time. Like every day you're talking to different dispensary owners. So, you know, it's a different sort of a role. So how are they attracting the best talent to their best bud tenders and keeping them? How are they getting them to care about what they're doing?
It's actually a lot trickier question or problem to solve in this dispensaries. And like every owner faces the same problem, because the bud tender role is entry level, likely part-time. It's a transient role. It's a non-career role, unless you're opening up a new dispensary every other month. There's not a lot of positions to grow into. The role has very high turnover. On average, 55% of your bud tenders will leave you in the first year. Some dispensaries do a lot better, the ones that figure it out. So that is the problem. The ones that have figured it out talk about growth early and often. They have growth conversations with their team at the beginning of the onboard, like when they're onboarding the team, all throughout the tenure with the company, and they do it often. So the rule is do it early and often.
What do those growth conversations look like when they're talking, like to a bud tender that's entry level? Like, what does growth look like? Yeah. You said unless they're opening all of these locations, what does that like practically look like?
And it's tricky too, because oftentimes you think about growth, you think about promotions, right? Promotions, salary increase, but that's not really what growth means. Growth is developing a skill set that you can use for a future career, right? That's growth. Yeah. That's as simple as that, right? So that's the growth conversation. So the ones that do it really well, the owners that do it really well, they'll talk to their team and ask them, hey, in 5 years, what is it that you want to do, right? What is it that you want to work in? What company, what career? It may not be a role that's within this dispensary, but where is it that you want to go? And talking to your team members, you'll understand, okay, if you want to do this, what are the skill sets that are required for your future role? And then creating an environment and using your business to create a vehicle for your team to develop these skills.
Well, and when those bud tenders really have a hope and like vision of what the future could be, they're going to be engaged now because they know that you as the business owner is invested in whatever the future holds.
It's very counterintuitive. What you're essentially saying is, hey, how do I set you up so you can leave our company? That's essentially what you're saying. But the results are amazing, because when people feel like you care about them and you care about their future, they trust you so much more. They're just plugged into what you're doing. It's the rule of reciprocity. And yeah, it's very simple. And only a handful, a very small percentage of dispensaries are doing that today. And that's what we want to change. We want to make sure that everybody just understands that there's a better way to engage with your team, And just because this position has high turnover, it's entry level, it doesn't give you the excuse not to do anything about it, right? Because it is harder to do, but there's a path forward where you're going to have a team that's very engaged, and then with that engagement you can build a very high performing team.
Are you seeing a lot of in some of those situations where dispensaries are growing to multi-location, that some of those really engaged, really locked in people are moving up into management roles? Yeah. And even, you know, I know it's a new industry, but moving into other, you know, even coming to KayaPush,
Yeah.
like, yeah, that could be creating a career within the cannabis industry, but you get a start as a bud tender.
You started as a bud tender, and the amazing opportunity that people have being a bud tender is in the bud tender role. In order for you to excel in this role, you really have to have good customer service skills, right? Because the bud tender role in general is responsible for the entire customer experience. When I walk into a dispensary, my impression of that brand rests heavily on my interaction with the bud tender. And that's a huge responsibility, but it's also a huge opportunity too. Because, and also the bud tenders, they're responsible for the entire dispensary's sales engine. So 2 huge responsibilities in a dispensary, but they can sharpen those skills for a future career, because those are the 2 fundamental skills that you need for every position.
They're the knowledge experts. They're the economic engine, but they're also the product experts in the dispensary, because they're working with so many different people, learning so many different needs. And I think that really is one of those skills that you can bring into whatever career you go into after being a bud tender. That resiliency of working with someone and figuring out, okay, what do you need? And I'm going to help you get what you need. Like there's so many skills that can come out of that role if managers, owners are willing to invest in the future of their employees. So you're really saying that's that secret sauce.
You hit the nail on the head, right? Is where we are today, particularly markets that are very mature, is competitive. Margins are low. Oftentimes you're not able to pay commissions to your bud tenders. How do you get your team engaged? And then once the team is engaged, how do you build a high performing team? What is that structure like? And that's the exact 2 problems that we're solving today at KayaPush.
And a peek behind the curtain, that's what you're doing at KayaPush as well. Like you're setting up your team for their future career as well. And I don't know if that was intentional in how you guys set up the company, but it seems to be like it's working here and it's working here, like within your own team.
It's funny you said that, because when we started this company, it was really important for us that we create an environment where people were reaching towards their peak potential, right? That we create an environment where everybody was having fun, being challenged. I truly believe that if you're not challenged at work, right, you don't have a target to go, and there requires effort and growth in order for you to hit that target, that you're going to be bored, particularly your A players. A players want to grow, but also on top of that, they want to know that they're making an impact. What impact are we're making? We're very fortunate that we see the impact that we're making to dispensaries, right? So with that formula, we see that working in dispensaries as well, right? Environment that's fun, that people are being challenged, and they know that they're making an impact.
So what would be your like one piece of advice then, if you could boil all of that down into like just one little nugget? Like you're sitting across from a dispensary owner, what would you say to them?
That's a good question. First is, why should somebody work for you? How are you being competitive, and how are you showing up? And oftentimes creating an environment where you care about your employee and you care about their future and you incorporate growth into the equation really helps answer that question. Create an environment where you have a high performing team, right? I'm obsessed with talking to dispensary owners and managers and bud tenders. I try to talk as much as possible. Through talking to hundreds of environments, a high functioning team can be boiled down to 4 key ingredients. So if I was a dispensary owner, I will look into my environment and see, does my team are they obsessed with their key performance indicators. So that's one. Do they know what the target is? Because if there's no target, what are we doing this for? What are we shooting for? And the target should require effort to achieve, and it should be achievable. So it shouldn't be so large that, hey, that's not achievable within this time frame, right? You want to take incremental steps for improvement. So that's one. What we found is that in environments where employees have a performance target, they're 17 times more likely to be engaged at work. 17 times. Wow. With that in mind, there should always be a target. A lot of dispensaries, they're worried that if they set a sales target, for example, that their team would chase short-term sales and really ruin a long-term relationship with customers. But the number one rule is, what is the target, right? Number two is create a fun environment. And you have a fun environment when you go to work and it doesn't feel like work anymore. There's banter, right? Everybody is, lack of a better word, shooting the shit with each other. They're joking around with each other, and it's just fun. You want that environment that's fun, because the moment that somebody just, oh gosh, I have to go to work, it's not fun anymore. No. So that's number two. Number three is the best run dispensaries are customer centric. I mentioned that high performing people, they want to know that they're making an impact, right? And you can't make an impact by not being customer centric. Like, everything that we do is for the customer. Like, without them, we have nothing. Like, and that rings true with our company. Without the customers that we work for, we have nothing.
We have to be obsessed with our customers.
We have to be obsessed with our customers. So I'll tell you the story. I visit dispensaries a lot, and I try to visit 2 dispensaries a week. I went to a dispensary and I saw that they had a strain that I really liked, right? So Red Congo. So I ordered that strain and the bud tender. And this is the first time that I was there. Yeah. The bud tender asked me, why do you like that strain? What is it about the strain that you like? So I give him I have a 30-second spiel because I visit so many dispensaries. So I let him know, hey, I'm a flower guy. I like sativa. I like to microdose myself, or I'm more of a daytime high type of person because I want to be productive. I like to clean. I like to run. I like to work out. Sometimes I like to work. And he suggested that I microdose a spray. There's a 2.5 milligram spray, and I'm a flower guy, so I gravitate towards flower, and I've never used sprays before. And he said, you can microdose this and just see how you feel. You might be really productive on this. So I bought it. Think about that. Somebody that asked the right question, understood my profile, what I liked, and knew the inventory well enough to make a recommendation. That is a high functioning individual. And so you can have sales targets and be customer centric. It doesn't have to be one or the other. You can have it both. And I tried it and I liked it. So now I'm a happy customer.
And
right?
A returning customer.
Yeah. So I'm grateful that he made that recommendation. There's a flip side of that. So same week, actually, I go to another dispensary, and I didn't know anything that they had on the menu. So I asked the bud tender, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Same thing, right? Daytime high, etc. I want something energizing, uplifting. And she proceeded to go on the POS and read the description of the products that they had. And poor girl. And it just took too long. So I just give me that one. Just think about the 2 different environments. And think about the last one on how much money is left on the table in that environment, right? 1, the customer service is not great, right? 2, there's completely no upsell. And in that environment, you're just an order taker. There's no value add. So that's the opposite of a high performing team.
Well, and you think about the future of that, the 2 different bud tenders, and really that one that was engaged, that knew the KPIs, knew all of that, like that person might go on to a career in sales that started from being curious, being insightful in their role as a bud tender. And they say, hey, I love this. And having a manager that's like, hey, I want I want to help you prosper in this role is huge.
And the final common traits that I see in high functioning teams is recognition. What we found is that employees, and we've surveyed employees, they don't feel like they're getting recognized enough for their hard work. Statistically, across the board, 44% of employees don't feel like they're being recognized enough. And that's a huge factor in turnover. But on the flip side, if they're being recognized for their achievements and for their hard work, they tend to stay at the company they're with longer because of the impact that they're making. So there's two parts of recognition. One is just being recognized by your peers, by your boss, by the owners for your hard work and your achievement. That hits you in such a deeper level than monetary recognition. Like when somebody takes their time out of their day to tell you how great of a job that you're doing and the impact that you're making, that lasts for so long versus here's $100.
But it is that verbal recognition and a verbal recognition in front of the team of people saying, hey, Brad is doing an awesome job. Like I saw him interacting with a customer and this guy came in looking for a daytime high. He's a sativa guy. And Brad said, hey, you got to try this microdosing thing. Like, because that also inspires the rest of the team. So it boosts up the one individual, but it also creates an example for this is what we're going after. This is the matrix of what we want on this team. And so it really has twofold too. And if you just gave like, hey, Brad, you did a good job, here's $100 gift card, that doesn't teach them anything.
That's huge. It's such an easy way to make someone feel appreciated. It's free. Recognition is free, but it's not used as often as it should.
How would you kind of wrap this up for the dispensary owners and managers that are listening, that are like, oh, this is so good, I'm ready to implement this into my team?
I think the first thing that dispensary owners and our listeners, if you run a dispensary or a business, right, that you should really think about is how are you showing up? Why should somebody work for you? In a dispensary, budtenders are not being paid that much. So why should they care about your business more than taking an order? So I think that's the first step is what environment are you creating to attract and retain the top talent in this industry? And how are you showing up? And the best way, from what I've seen, to create separation between you and your competitors is to talk about growth, incorporate growth conversations early and often. That's the best way. And then I think the second is to think about the environment that you're creating. Because ultimately, as a business owner or as a manager, you control the environment. You can dictate what environment that you can set. If you're intentional with setting a fun, engaging, challenging, impactful environment, then you're gonna have that environment. But if you're not intentional with the environment that you're creating, then you leave it to the gods. You don't want to do that. You invested hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's be intentional with the environment that you want to create.
You got up to this point, you got your compliance, your security, and then you have a place where people don't want to be.
Yeah.
Customers will read into that, staff will read into that, and why would you get that far and then not get the ball across the yard line?
Like here's $500,000. I have everything lined up. Okay, now
put it up to chance.
I'm gonna pray to Zeus.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put it up to chance and hope that it happens.
So I would say those are the two things that dispensary owners should really, and business owners, right? They should really think about is how am I showing up and what environment am I creating?
I really appreciate you taking the time. I know we've talked about this, about getting you on here and sharing some of these insights that you're having from your hundreds of conversations with dispensary owners. So hopefully once a month we'll get you on here sharing some of those thoughts and things. And yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tom.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks for listening to the KayaCast podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app or visit our website at kayacast.fm to learn more about our guests and to access the full archive of episodes of the show. We can't wait to share more stories with you each week of cannabis retailers launching, growing, and scaling their business.